welcome back to my channel. Today in this video, I'd like to share based on my own past experience how to avoid getting tenant from hell. So if you're an existing landlord or an upcoming one, do watch this video till the end. I'm sure you will find lots of value in this video. Top 7 questions to ask in filtering out potential tenant from hell, which from the landlord's perspective, we define them as tenant. First, who defaulted on rental yet refused to move out. Or worse, wreak havoc of your rental property and create hell for your life. Let's begin with the first one. Know thy tenant. Without any prior discrimination against certain classes of people, it's always important to get to know thy tenant. Hence, as landlord, we must always find out first, what is their race? There are some landlords who prefer to rent their property to only their own race, or there are some who avoid certain races for their own personal reason. To quote an example, I have known of some landlords who would only want to consider renting to Chinese and Malay tenants only, and some shun renting to Indian tenants due to bad past experience. Second, national origin, are they Malaysian or otherwise? Some landlord prefers renting to local tenant only. Third, what is their religion? Like in Malaysia, I have come across some Malay tenant upon landlord confirming to rent their property to them. This tenant then requires landlord to make the refrigerator inside the rental unit halal. Yeah, you heard me right, halal. So landlord, you may want to know this, yeah? Fourth, are they male or female? Generally, thought to be better in taking care of a home. Of course, there are always exceptions too. Fifth, number of pets who will be staying inside, are they family or working adults? Depending on the number of bedrooms in your rental property, a general guide would be maximum 2 pets per bedroom. So for a 3-bedroom residential property, maximum 6 pets is allowed to stay inside and not more than that. 6. Length of rental, that is it 1 year or more than that? Any tenure that is less than 1 year is usually not preferred because you will need to incur more costs to stage up your property for the next tenant. 7. Occupation. What is their occupation? This is a very important factor which warrants a further elaboration on its own. So, choose a tenant with adequate income, not too much, not too less income. You want to look for a tenant who has got adequate income to pay you the rental and is financially responsible too. This is important because if they are responsible with paying their bills, there is a high chance they will also pay your rental on time and be responsible in taking good care of your rental properties. Sometimes landlord may even want to go the extra step in checking the tenant's finances and creditworthiness. First, verify tenant's occupation. Ideally, you will want to find a tenant whose monthly household combined income is at least 3 times the monthly rent. That is, if your rental charge is Ringgit Malaysia 1,005, the tenant's combined household income should be at least Ringgit Malaysia 4,500 net. In the US, it is known for landlord to ask for copies of the potential tenant's payslip, employer's details, and even the past landlord's contact. Unfortunately, it's not the same over here in Malaysia. This is not the norm. If you try asking for this, the potential tenant would most likely feel offended and would just cut you off and look for another rental unit. So the most we could do over here as a landlord in Malaysia is to request for a copy of their business name card. That is the most. But don't be surprised, there would also be some cases where the tenant would also say that they do not have a business card. So in this instance, you may want to ask for the employer's name, that is the company which they are working for, and Google our way to the exact location of the office and the contacts. You may then call up the company to verify if the tenant is indeed working there and what is their designation. Over here as landlord, we could only gauge our potential tenant's income through their occupation and designation of the tenant. So for my case, 70% of all our properties, all the tenants have been renting them for more than 5 years. Super long-term tenants. Lastly, trust our instinct. You can do all the screening in the world, but sometimes your instincts are the best judge of character. You may feel that there is something off about a tenant who otherwise looks good on paper, but only later to find out that the tenant has been using someone else's identity to apply for the apartment.
Wait a minute. Who are you?
So, even though we do trust our screening, but do not ignore our guts. So what about you? Are you an existing landlord? What are the ways that you have been using to filter out your tenant to prevent yourself from getting a potential tenant from the hell? Feel free to also share your ways with us over here. And I hope you have found value in today's video, and as usual, would appreciate a thumbs up from you so as to get the YouTube algorithm to share this video to as many landlords as possible in Malaysia. And before I end, always be aggressive in learning, but be safe in investing, and happy landlording. See you again in my next video. Bye!